Hello and welcome back to the channel. And we're going to be talking about what Gen X and Millennials need to know before they retire. Understand this now so you can execute your plan when you retire. This is going to be very important, very detailed, and hopefully you take some notes and be part of it. You want to plan for this before you get there because there's going to be some implications that you're going to want to think about before you get to that point. Just to let you know who I am, I'm Albert Bockenstedt. Again, thanks for stopping by on this channel. As we go through this, if you have any questions whatsoever, or you want more information, or you just want to sit down with me and talk about, we'll get on a Zoom call and talk about your situation specifically to help give you bounce ideas off of you, or if you want to ask any more questions. So, maximizing your 401k in retirement, the smart distribution strategies. So you may already understand this. How are you going to take your 401k money when you retire? You just can't let it sit there unless your plan allows you to do that. You're not going to be able to contribute to it anymore because 401ks are designed to be part of when you are working, that you can keep adding stuff, income to it, savings to it. So you're going to be, just think about it. You've been working for decades, disciplined savings. Your 401k represents the foundation of your retirement. And a lot of people nowadays, you're going to be totally shocked on how much the generations before this, how much they save. On average, they have less than $200,000 in their 401k to retire off of. They're probably going to see some Social Security, but that's about it. They don't have much more. During their time frames, they might have they may get a pension, maybe. So there's a couple of things that they've worked with, depends on how they're set up, but we need to learn from what they're going through now to learn before we get there. This guide will help you navigate this distribution options, and this is going to be the only one. This is the first one of the series I'm going to be doing. It's going to be very important on how to handle this stuff in retirement as we go forward. So understanding your 401k distribution landscape. So first off, you're going to want to review your plan rules. Contact your plan administrator. What are the specific withdrawal options? As a plan, they vary between employer and who they are signed up with. And what you started out with in your company, you may have that 401k got taken over by a different company. And what are those rules now? So it really, you need to know what those are. Timing consideration. Determine if your plan allows you to maintain your account after retirement, like I said earlier, or it requires distribution by a certain age or time frame after you leave that job. It depends on what you're going to be doing. You may not be looking to distribute that money right away. You may not need it right away. Maybe you're going to try to, wait until later time in your life to start pulling money out of your 401k. And the rules do change between the traditional 401k and the Roth 401k. Rules are different on that. And if you're especially those millennials, if you started out early in your life and you had a 401k, you most likely started, a lot of people maybe had talked to you and you're in a Roth 401k, but as you got older and you started making more money, you're probably maybe transitioned to a traditional 401k to help you with some tax benefits, which is great. You just got to understand what's happening, because now that you're going to retire, that income is going to be taxed when you pull that money out. And depending on there's a required removal rate from your 401k, so you end up paying taxes at 70 and a half years old. If you get to that point and if you're pulling money out of it, they're also going to charge you a specific fee, plus they're going to require you to start pulling money out so they can tax it. And depending on how you're structured, where you're at, if you started early with your 401ks, you may be at a higher income level than you are when you retire. So they always say that, or their plans are, the professionals always say, oh, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you get to retirement. That doesn't feel very good. I'm already working. I have a certain income level that I'm used to. Now when I leave, I'm going to be dropped down to a different tax bracket. Okay, that means I'm getting less money. How do I navigate all this stuff? And understanding your 401k distribution landscape is very important on how you do that. So accessing the current balances. Review your current balance, investment allocations, projected growth. Be realistic about your expectations. So here's another tidbit. A lot of people, when they went into their company and they wanted a 401k, they just put it in a life cycle fund. Hey, I'm going to retire in 2030 or 2040 or 2050, and they managed it for you over your lifespan, and as you got older, they reduced your plan to be less volatile. They reduce the volatility in it, which means you have less growth. That means it's not compounding or gaining more income for you as since you're going to be retired, right? It reduced over the years. So it may have been cranking when you were younger, where you're making a good income. It was gaining value so much in the early years. Now when you're retired, they reduce it down to barely beating inflation rate, and then you got to pay taxes on top of that. So understanding this is very important, and understanding it early, where you may be able to go, okay, I'm most likely going to be in a lower tax bracket now. So should I roll over my traditional 401k into a Roth type product where you pay the taxes now because I'm in a lower tax bracket now? And historically, our taxes now are lower than in the past. We're in a low period of time, low percentage rate of taxes in this time frame right now, and I'm sitting at 2025. So if you're watching this in the future, you got to understand what that is in your current status. Now we're going to evaluate market conditions. Are the markets up right now? And right now they are. When you retire, are they going to be up, or are they going to be down, or they're not going anywhere? Nobody's going to know. The ways your account been managed, does it take advantage of that or not? Is it even possible to take your account in and start pulling income off it, or are you going to have to wait a little bit so it builds up because the market just went down? You're going to have to wait a little bit to let it catch up again so you can start pulling some income off of it without just completely killing your 401k. So primary 401k distribution options. Systematic withdrawals. So withdrawals, okay, I'm just using an average of $200,000. Remember I said the average is $200,000 or less of the generation that's ahead of us. They didn't, even though they were probably told all their working career to save, they didn't save very much. And that average is average. Most of the people are less than 200,000. So if you take the widely respected 4% rule to make sure you don't outlive your money, 4%, you take 4% out each year as your income. Then you have to, if it's traditional, then you have to pay taxes on that. Is that hurting your head already? 4% of 200,000 is $8,000. That's for the whole year. That's not the month. That's for the whole year. Now, going to an annuity purchase, you take that same $200,000, and they're going to try to guarantee you $1,000 to $1,200 a month, which is only $12,000 to $14,000 per year. Yes, it's better than the systematic withdrawals from your 401k. Annuity is going to try to predict how long you're going to live, and make sure you have enough money from your account to hopefully you don't live it. Then you could take one lump sum withdrawal, which is then you're going to be owing taxes right away. As soon as you take that, of course, you got to be 59.5 above that to not withdraw, not take out any more penalties. It's going to be a normal tax penalty if it's traditional. Partial withdrawals. You can do partial withdrawals as needed to keep up the remaining, still be invested, maybe if you can still keep it in there, or you may have to do something else. Each option offers different advantages. You're going to want to plan for this early and talk to what is your tax situation at that time. You may be into a different tax bracket, or you may want to determine, oh, I'm going to be a 1099 type person, or you're going to be a consultant for the company that you were at, and you start up your own business, and that's going to change some rules for you. So take a look at what your tax situation is before you start taking distributions from your 401k. It is very important. I know I'm taking very general stabs at this, but I don't know what your situation is, and my situation is different from yours. So let's go on to the next one. Using the raw IRA rollover option. This is very beneficial. It's fairly easy to do. This way you can just roll over. So if you take a traditional 401k, you're going to have to roll it over into a traditional IRA, or you can convert it to a Roth IRA where you're going to have to owe taxes. But when you roll it over, you will roll over the entire amount or partial amount. And if you roll from a traditional to a Roth, that tax is due then, right? That's going to be in that tax year that you're going to have to owe taxes on that conversion. But if you're just rolling from traditional to traditional, no problem whatsoever. Or if you're rolling from a Roth to a Roth, no problem whatsoever. Just got to be sensitive to what you're doing so you know what your tax situation is. When you roll over to an IRA, you have a wider range of investment options just beyond than just taking that money out of your 401k. Rollover prevents you from getting that. It doesn't prevent you. What I'm saying, it's more tax efficient way of rolling that amount over into another account that you can manage differently, or you're not going to have the same people manage it. You may be underneath the same company, but it's a different group of people manage it. Or you may, which I recommend, is manage it yourself. It's really easy to do once you understand some basic things. And some later videos in this series on what you need to do with your 401k before you learn before you get to retirement. You may want to take advantage of what we're going to talk about in the future. So if you want to see more videos, just keep checking back on the channel, or you know what to do. And then when you roll it over, it gives you greater flexibility on withdrawal and timing amounts, those types of things. You may get such a benefit of doing this that you start generating monthly income or income out of this 401k that you get on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, or annual basis. It depends upon you. By rolling it over, you get so much more management flexibility on how you take that money. When you get to your requirement to pull that money out, you won't have to worry about that stuff because you're already taking distributions off of it. And one thing about rolling it over into an IRA, it gives you the ability to keep your investments growing and growing and growing if you understand how to manage it and started generating cash flow every month every week or every month or every year out of that account, out of those investments. It's very, very important to understand that. You may not understand that now, but if you keep watching these videos in the series, I'm going to be touching on how you do that in the future. So ability to consolidate multiple retirement accounts. You can roll, say you have multiple retirement accounts, and you can roll them over into one IRA, which is very beneficial. I have multiple IRAs set up for, I have traditional, I have Roth, I have self-directed IRAs where I get to invest in other things like real estate and those types of things. But it's very beneficial to have options and flexibility when you get to retirement, because I think your goal, and just like my goal, is I want my investments to produce income for me in my retirement years. That's what I want to do. And I don't want to ever take out the principal. If I have to take out the principal, I have to take out the principal. But I want to be able to keep as much in there working, all my little soldiers out there. Every single dollar is a soldier out there trying to earn me income. And learning how to do that to generate cash flow for me keeps the amount of money in the account for the longest possible time without me depleting the resources. Executing proper rollover. Contact both your 401k provider and your IRA custodian, so each one of them knows what's going on, and when you transfer over, it should be seamless. It should be electronic. You should never get a check. Just like it says down below, always request a direct rollover. Do not get a personal check. It could possibly trigger a mandatory 20% tax withholding within 60 days. It is very important. You don't want to lose that. So let's do an electronic rollover if you're doing that. There's each custodian is a little bit different. You're going to want to understand that. So tax implications of the 401k distributions. The original income taxation. A traditional 401k withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income when at your current tax bracket when you retire. As $20,000 annual withdrawal might be taxed at a 12 or 22% at federal interest, the current tax rates. So, are you going to be on a lower tax bracket or a higher tax bracket? You may be on a lower tax bracket now, or you may be able to with just because then, okay, you might be on a lower tax bracket, but you're going to be able to take that tax hit no matter what it is in the future. It may be better to take that tax hit now where you're more flexible and be able to pay it because you have income coming in instead of not having income. Take a look at that. Unless you want to learn how to manage your account when you retire, you're going to want to do that now so you can start setting up your accounts so you learn, you execute, you practice, you execute, you get in. When you get into retirement, it just becomes a natural thing to you. It naturally happens, and you can be able to manage your taxation in the future. Tax bracket implications. Large withdrawals can push you into a higher tax bracket. It's really easy. So you got to watch where you're at now when you go into retirement. What happened during that year? Did you get a huge bonus and you're going to retire at the same time? Or are they going to give you a huge bonus and retire at the same year as a going away present? Do you really want to take that together, or you're going to push you into the higher tax brackets? Depending on how much you're making, even $5,000 increase in your annual income could push you into a higher tax bracket. Pay attention to that. State tax considerations. Beyond federal taxes, most states also 401k distributions may be, you may have to pay taxes at the state. Some retirement-friendly states are Florida, Texas, Wyoming, have no state income tax, potentially saving thousands annually on that. So, okay, you may not want to live there, but you need to understand what your state taxes are, okay? Strategic tax planning can help minimize your tax burden, especially when you're in retirement. It is so important to understand that. That's one of the taxation is probably the largest bill that every American has to deal with. So let's go into the next stuff. Retirement minimum distributions for the government timeline. Okay, required minimum distributions. This is what remember I was talking about you're going to have to start pulling money out at 70 and a half. So the IRS requires you to take a minimum distributions. Okay, sorry, at 73 and 75 now. That used to be 70 and a half. They've changed it based on when you were born. So you're going to have to start taking. You may not need to take the money. But they're going to force you if it's a traditional IRA or 401k. They're going to require you to start taking the money out of that. Your first RMD might be approximate $7,000 to $9,000. It's based on percentages, and there's a calculation there. But I believe those calculations change over time. So what I can say now may not be the same thing as in the future. Failing to take the RMD results in a substantial 25% penalty on the amount you should have withdrawn but didn't. Set the calendar reminders for you to consider those automatic distributions. Now, for those, we're fairly young, the Gen X millennials, okay, 73 and 75 seem that's a long time horizon. Well, that means a long time horizon for you to start compounding your income over and over and over again, that you may end up pushing yourself into a higher tax bracket. Now, a 4% now may be low, but when you get, if your income is greatly increasing, you greatly increase the amount that's in the account, that 4% could be a lot larger. So be sensitive to these types of things, especially in those traditional. If you have a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, then you don't have to worry about it, because you can take that out tax-free because you already paid tax out. That is the power of doing that conversion. And you don't, they do allow you to do this conversions. You can chunk it out. I just want to roll over a portion of my traditional IRA into a Roth IRA and pay smaller amount of taxes, depending upon what's happening with your current situation. So you may be able to do things to offset the taxes a little bit. So create a sustainable withdrawal strategy. So withdrawal strategy, okay. So the 4% rule is the 4% rule. That's what they suggested. The professionals suggested that if you take 4% out of the 401k or your IRA or whatever it is, the increase of your account should outpace that 4% rule, and you won't outlive your money. Here's the problem. Remember, as you said, you wanted to retire in 2050, let's say, 2040, it doesn't make a difference. That lifetime fund that you put it in because you didn't want to pay attention, you just gave it to the professionals and let them do their thing, and you paid them every year. You paid them. You may not realize it, but now you'll end up seeing it a lot more because they're going to want to keep managing your account. Their percentage, there's the same percentage, but your account is much higher now, right? So that measly 1% back in the day, 1% of $100,000 is $1,000, right? But if you went to $1 million, how much is that 1% now? That's $10,000. Doing the same work, doing the same thing for you, but instead of getting 1,000, they're getting 10,000. So you have to subtract that off. And now you're in retirement and you have to pay taxes and all that. It just goes crazy. So watch out for the fees. And this 4% rule. It is, it's part of that management. If you can manage that, you may be able to adjust that a little bit. Or actually, if you learn how to generate or start generating cash flow in your account, maybe that 4% rule, you really don't have to worry about it, because the investments are actually producing more and more income for you over time, because you're managing and generating cash flow off your investments. Meaning proper investment allocation. I'm going to go right back down this. I know I got diverted and went back to the topic, came back down again, but I wanted to stress this. Since they did a lifetime fund, they reduced the risk in your account. So as you got older, they put you things in bonds. Bonds barely make money. barely, if they even do, outpace the rate of inflation. If they don't outpace the rate of inflation, and then you have to pay taxes on that, oh my goodness, you just lost money. So, at the time that you actually need more income, right? You need all your socials working at harder to generate you, because now you're actually taking money out of it. You want them to work harder, right? Now think about that. I don't want them to work less. I want that account to generate more income for me, because I'm retired now. Because when I'm retired, I'm at home. That's where I spend most of my money. I want the flexibility to do what I want to do. If your account cannot produce enough income for you, then I have to curb what you do. You're going to have to change the way you live. You have to change where you live. Those types of things. So reducing costs, just like they said, well, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Okay, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. It means I have to reduce my costs. How do I do that? I sell my house, or I move to a different state that has lower taxes, or I move into a different, instead of buying, I'm going to rent, or I'm going to go from a bigger house to a smaller house, and then, those types of things. It's the same thing with your retirement account, because they designed it because you asked them to do it. They designed it that your account is not going to produce as much as it did when you were younger. Is it going to lose as much? No, but bonds recently have been making negative money, so that's not good. And then you always have this thing called inflation, which is supposed to be designed at 2%, but it never is 2%. So you're going to want to learn how to manage it yourself to reduce the cost, so you don't have that 1% management fee or whatever the percentage is. And then dealing with taxes. You're going to have to learn about taxes a little bit to understand how to take those things to help that your 401k stretch farther. Work with a professional, financial professional. Okay. I have nothing against the financial professionals. They know what they know. They're good at what they do. They are salesmen. They're told to sell products that they can sell, and they can offer and also they can only offer you what they can offer you. What I would really encourage you to do is do some homework, do some learning on what are those things you can do with your account, and how to manage your money, on how to manage your taxes, because there's very few people out there that are tax people and planners. But if you are expected to know a little bit about both, so you can keep them straight, right? So pay attention and hopefully learn, and then before you retire, instead of getting thrown to the wolves where they will say, oh, I'll just take over your account for you. You don't have to worry about a thing. I'll manage it for you. I don't think you'll feel comfortable about doing that, because you just worked all your life to start with that retirement, and you're just going to hand it over to somebody, and they say, "Oh, I'm a professional, and they'll do a better job than you." That may be true, but how do you know they're doing a better job than you? Yeah, you need. I highly recommend to learn some stuff. So understand your personal withdrawal strategies, doing tax efficient distribution. That is very important. Ongoing portfolio management. If you watch some of these videos, you're going to learn how to manage your portfolio a little bit. Help with navigating a complex decision like annuity purchases. You can deal with that too. This is what the professionals are going to talk to you about. Regular reviews and adjustments. Okay. Notice that it doesn't talk anything about insurance. Are you going to need insurance when you retire? Yeah, probably health insurance, right? Okay, you're going to get on the government program. They don't cover everything. Or you may want to have life insurance. Everybody's going to die, but maybe you want to consider buying some more insurance. Finding the right help. Consider working with a fiduciary financial advisor who is legally obligated to put your interests first. True. Fee only. Okay, flat fees is a good thing, hourly rate. Retirement income specialist, okay, and robo-advisors, low-cost automated services with optional human guidance, right? So nowadays, since we already have AI, you can start asking it questions. Um, if you ask, and one thing I've learned over recent years when I talk to people about this stuff is uh, the saying of when the student is ready to learn, the teacher appears. One thing I do know what talks about in that phrase is the student doesn't even know how to ask the right questions to get, which allows them to get the right answers if that person that they're talking to can give the right answers. So using AI can help do this. Robo-advisors, it's basically the same thing. Special considerations for 401k strike, healthcare expenses, emergency buffer, inflation protection, longevity planning, lots of things. You may need to have long-term care insurance, right? Again, when I talked about insurance, maybe you needed to up that insurance just to get, if you're going to end up going to long care, long-term care facilities. Those, inflation protection. You want to beat the rate of inflation. The US dollar is designed to depreciate by 2% every year. Since its inception, it's lost over 99% of its money value. And recently we've seen higher inflation up to 7%. That's what the government says. I think everybody knows things are a lot more expensive than just 7% or 2% or 3%, what the governments are saying. You need to be able to beat the rate of inflation. And again, I'm going to show some strategies in later videos on how to beat those. So now we're going to healthcare expenses. Healthcare costs are going to just keep going up unless something happens. And you're going to have to, you're going to go into Medicare, Medicaid, and those types of things. But the supplements, you're going to probably need some help with some supplements. Okay, putting your 401k distribution plan into action. Contact your plan administrator, right? Understand what those things are. And they're going to go, why do you need to talk about that now? You're not ready to retire. True, but you're going to want to know what your options are, right? Create your own retirement budget. Understand, I know you may be 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years ahead, away from it, but think about it and start setting that budget up. You can start uh, setting up a situation. As you know, technology replaces itself all the time. Everyone says, well, I'm just going to I want my house paid off and I want my car paid off when I go into retirement. Okay. If you're planning to live 20 to 30 years after you retire, your car is going to be obsolete within 5 after you buy it. See, the best thing you could do if you wanted to do that is you bought your car the year you retired to make the newest car available to last you long enough into the retirement. Or your house. Okay, you paid for your house. Now you're going to be in your house for an additional 20 to 30 years. You may be already in your house for 20, 30 years. You may already have it paid off. What happens if you're making more money in the future, in your retirement, and you may need that tax deduction from the interest on your house? You may need that to help reduce your taxes. You need to look at that type of stuff. And that's the reason why I say create that retirement budget. Start as early as you can and forecast what you can think, what you can do. Evaluate rolling over to IRAs. Converting from, it's easier to do when you're younger. So if you're saying that you have a traditional IRA, you're doing it for tax purposes, okay. Maybe you start chunking out small bits over the next years to move money out of your 401k because you need the traditional stuff, or you're all traditional, chunking that out into a Roth and paying the taxes now where it's cheaper
may be beneficial in your case. Schedule a financial review. There's a lot of free financial out there. If you want to contact me, I can give you a quick look on. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor or plan. I'm not a certified nothing. Tax. I just know what happens to me in my accounts, and by talking to my professionals of taxes and what I do for my investments. So, thanks for listening. I hope this was very, very beneficial to you. Um, if you want to, go ahead and copy and paste this the transcript from this video and take it and put it in your favorite AI tool and ask it questions based on it, and also add it, say, hey, also search the internet and try to learn, hopefully this sparks some questions to you. Maybe it will help you on this. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor or planner or a tax professional, those types of things. But again, go ahead if you want to get in touch with me, and we want to sit down and talk with me and talk about anything about this type of subject. Please reach out to me on my email. Leave me a comment down in the down below, and we'll see you in the next video.